Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Stranger in a Southern Land. I, of course, am your host, Jake Manning. Today in the program, we have Elise and Jon from Green Man Brewery in Asheville, North Carolina. Now, I interview each one of them separately because there's a lot of happenings, a lot of hustle and bustle going on. I couldn't get them in the same place at the same time. There's a lot of stuff going on at Green Man Brewery, most notably the building of their new facility, which you can probably hear in the background because we recorded this interview outside, but I don't think the audio is terrible at all. I don't think it's very distracting. I think you can hear Jon and Elise very clearly, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. But it was very wonderful to sit down and talk with both of them about the future of Green Man Brewery in Asheville, North Carolina. Speaking of the future, if you want to know more about my future, make sure you follow me on Twitter at ManScoutManning, or if you want to follow me on Instagram at ManScoutManning. If you have a question about the podcast, make sure you email me at jake@sslshow.com, or if you want to book me for an upcoming wrestling event, make sure you email me at manscoutmanning@yahoo.com. So anyways, let's start with Elise and then jump to Jon from Green Man Brewery in Asheville, North Carolina, here on Stranger in a Southern Land. Just talk, Elise, about Green Man Brewery.
Okay.
Which, you know, you're very passionate about. Obviously, that's why you're working here.
Correct.
But give people some more information about Green Man Brewery. Like, you got a big expansion just over that.
We do, yes. So. It's very exciting, but we have far back roots as well. We're the second oldest brewery here in Asheville. We originated in 1997. Mm-hmm. Right after Highland opened in 1994, who was some real craft beer pioneers here. Back then in the 90s, there wasn't nearly as much going on in Asheville as there is here today, especially with tourism. Mm-hmm. And so the craft beer entering in at that time was a real catalyst for sort of people starting to pay attention to Asheville a little bit more. We always had the Biltmore House and really great hiking and everything, but as far as tourism in the actual downtown, that wasn't really going on so much. And I like to think that the craft beer movement has really expanded that a whole lot.
Well, obviously, because there's the T-shirts that say Beer City USA, right. And then there's all the craft beer that's going on. And, of course, with it coming in the late 90s, there was a big boom, I believe, about mid-90s. So it was kind of coming at the tail end of that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, craft beer had just kind of getting out. So for Green Man to stay in business that long is actually pretty commendable of them, because there's a lot of businesses that started after the big boom in the 90s of craft beer.
Yeah, we actually have a really loyal following that leads back even that far. We originated traditionally with English styles, doing really authentic English styles, and we still stay true to that tradition. We import all our malts from England, and we have our 3 flagships, which are all really, really authentic English styles. But over the years, we've started experimenting with exciting new ingredients and innovative new flavors. So we still have our really strong, loyal following, and then we also get people really excited about some of the other innovative things that we're doing with beer.
What are some of the other innovative things, like you just off the top of your head, like things you've experimented with?
Well, we've done all sorts. Right now we have a beer called La Mas Negra, which is a version of our beer called None More Black, which is an imperial black ale. And we added, we aged it on cocoa nibs and added Mexican brown sugar, cinnamon, and ancho and chipotle peppers to it. And so it's has a little bit of heat to it, a nice roasty flavor, a little bit of smokiness to it, and it's really, really good.
Now, obviously, just the way you described the beer right there, do you have a little bit of beer knowledge yourself before you started working
I
here?
do. I've worked for breweries before, and I just have always had an interest in craft beer.
Mm-hmm. And what was specifically about Green Man that struck your interest?
Well, I've been coming here for a very long time. I live right around the corner from here, and so it's just kind of like a bar that I like to come to. For a while, this was really one of the only businesses here on this part of downtown called the South Slope. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't really much else here at all. The factory across the street for the hammocks, has been here a long time. But as far as people going out on the town in the South Slope, Green Man was really one of the only places to do it. And so it's had a really loyal following as far as people coming to the bar for a very long time. And so I've just been enjoying their beer for quite a while now. And so I was happy to come on board with them.
So have you always lived in Asheville, or how did you locate here?
No, I moved here in 2008 to go to school here at UNC Asheville.
Okay, so you've kind of come in as the town's been growing in itself.
Yeah.
But you obviously have paid attention to what happened before, because it seems like a lot of neighborhoods there were staple businesses that stayed open, and then from that businesses around it flourished and stuff like that. Like even in the River Arts District, eventually that's going to be getting better, and a lot of other places in town seem to be getting better.
that area is growing a whole lot too. But the South Slope is an example of a really up and coming district in downtown, especially for beer, because we were the first brewery down here, and then ABC was up the street a little bit, High Wire, and now they're within the block. There's about 7 or soon 8, I think, breweries within this block here. So it's a real concentrated area full of beer.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, you've kind of been the flagship of this place. I mean, we're sitting now in the beer garden, as most people can see in the video portion. It's very, very nice and wonderful tap room and stuff like that. But now the big expansion's coming.
Right.
What is that going to bring? Is this a larger production area, larger tap room? Or what is that expansion going to entail?
Pretty much a little bit of everything, actually. We already have a big production facility that not everyone knows about, because the brewery that's in the tap room is actually just our specialty brewery. Okay. And so next to that, we have a 30-barrel production facility. And what we'll be doing is moving the bright tanks out of that and into the building that we're building right now, and creating a packaging hall with even more bright tanks, and then adding more fermenters to the production facility that we already have. And so it'll be a very large packaging hall, and also we will also put another brew house in there as well.
Okay, so basically the idea of the expansion is to facilitate larger distribution, I'm assuming, correct?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we already have expanded our distribution quite a bit, but we intend to do even more so. And we will also have a very awesome tap room that's going to be on the top floor, and it's going to be an indoor-outdoor tap room overlooking from the outside our beautiful city in the mountains, and from the inside the brew house that we'll have inside.
Okay. And then as far as distribution, how far are you guys reaching right now?
Right now we distribute all of North Carolina, all of South Carolina, and parts of Tennessee.
Okay. And as far as how did that change kind of come slowly or quickly and stuff like that? Because I know a lot of breweries, some brewers are so particular about their product, they won't allow. It's almost like they won't allow distribution past 90 miles or even within the city, because they're worried about the process of getting it to the distributor and stuff like that.
Right, and that is the idea behind staying fairly close to where we are. But we just have a lot of demand for our beer in other places. People come and visit here and maybe have been doing so for a while and have just been asking to be able to get our beer in their cities, which, in states around North Carolina. And so we've just decided to respond to what our consumers are asking for and provide them with, the ability to buy mainly 6-packs of our flagships and seasonal beers in the places that, and so if they want to come and try a rare specialty, they still can come to the tap room and do that. But as far as just being able to get a 6-pack after work and going home and drinking it, people want to do that with Green Man beer. We decided to try to make that happen for them. So far it's been working out pretty well for us.
Okay, well, what are the beers that people are asking for? What are the flagship ones?
The IPA, the ESB, and the Porter are our flagships. They're all English styles, so our IPA is an English styled IPA. We use English pale and crystal malts in it, and it gives it a stronger malt backbone than some American IPAs. So it's got a really nice, well-balanced, it's not the most bitter IPA in the world, but it has a really nice floral, earthy notes to it, and a very, very good balance, very easy drinking. It doesn't have too strong of a bite to it, but people really love that IPA a lot. And then the ESB is a traditional English style as well. Stands for extra special bitter. And
I just had it for lunch.
Okay, there you go.
I just had it 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Probably.
Yeah, so we try to stay really authentic with that one. We use Fuggle hops, which are an English hop with a real nice earthy flavor to them. And crystal malt and pale malt and chocolate malt, which gives it a little bit of malty sweetness to it. So people really are always asking for that beer a lot. That's a really, really popular one. And then the Porter, also an authentic English style, has a really nice smooth mouthfeel to it, nice roasty flavors, a little bit of coffee and chocolate notes going on there. And so not very hoppy at all, very low hop bitterness to it. So people who are fans of porters, often I hear that they say that our porter is the best.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Is anybody like reasons why that is like taste or is like?
I think it's just that it's kind of got a real easy drinking quality to it. It's really big on flavor, but it's got more of a medium mouthfeel to it, and it's very, very smooth. And so big on flavor, but it's very smooth and easy to drink.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's very good. So, anyways, with the with the new expansion and stuff like that, are you guys gonna be staying open most of the time during the construction and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, we will be staying open.
Like especially I mostly meant the tap room in a sense because there's payloaders and everything going by and stuff like that. So
Yeah, no, we plan to keep our tap room right now open, and even after the expansion is open, we currently do plan to keep this tap room open as well.
Okay, so and I really when you're going to be doing such a large expansion like that, I think it's going to be do pretty well for you, and especially it's really going to set you guys apart from all the other breweries that probably have popped up in the last couple of years. And it always kind of concerns me when I see growth in an industry happen so fast and so rapidly, and it always worries me that will these companies survive? Because eventually the bubble's going to burst.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think that here at Green Man you have that concern, or do you feel like this new addition is going to set you guys apart and pull you ahead of the pack and prevent any type of issue in that comes?
Yeah, I mean, there are always more and more breweries opening up in Asheville, that's for sure. I feel like each one has a little bit of a unique niche. Like they focus on different styles of beer, or they have a different sort of atmosphere. And really the way that the brewery tourism is working out here is it's making so the tourists come to visit as many breweries as they can. So really it's
in the best interest for everybody to stay open.
I think so. I think it is. It's kind of like everyone's supporting each other in this growth, and it just provides variation for people. But I do think that people continue to visit most of the breweries and not just coming to one and ignoring another or something like that. I think that people are kind of making their rounds and checking out all the breweries, and then of course they're going to choose which one is their favorite and maybe come back to that one more.
Yeah, because it's much more appealing to say we're going to visit 10 breweries as opposed to 2.
Yeah.
That's a far better selling point for the town and for the city and for the community of craft beer.
Yeah, definitely. And here I think I just heard that in Buncombe County right now there's 19, and I know of at least a couple more that are planning to open here soon, New Belgium including. And so I think all these breweries opening are really just sort of inviting even more and more people to come visit. So that can't be a bad thing for anybody, really.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've kind of had you on here to mostly talk about the future of Green Man. What else other than the new expansion is in the future for Green Man Brewery? Excuse me.
Well, we mentioned the distribution a little bit, and we are do have our radar set on a couple more states that surround North Carolina. So slowly but surely, we want to get our beer out to more people who are asking for it, definitely, and just keep. I mean, we want to keep our flagship strong. They've always been very recognized for consistency. And so we'll definitely keep those going strong, but we also want to experiment with some new, possibly some new 6-packs that we're going to be getting out to people, and some new 750 milliliter bottles that people haven't seen before. We've had a small sour program, and we're definitely interested in expanding that and maybe putting in a barrel aging facility at some point.
Okay, so
we already have one, but one that people can actually come visit.
Yeah, so the idea is to get it out there as many people as possible and keep the stronghold here in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Elise, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were having a discussion. It was Elise or Eliza. So, but Elise, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We've talked about the future, and I appreciate you talking to me about Green Man Brewery.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Well, anyways, John, thank you for joining me here on Stranger in a Southern Land. I appreciate you joining me in the beer garden, but I'm sure that's probably not too bad of a place for you to be.
We have to do quality control every once in a while, so I find my way out here on occasion.
Yeah, stumble here, walk here, find yourself here. But
it's all part of the job.
All part of the job. So what's your job here at Green Man Brewery?
I am the operations manager, which means basically everything but brewing.
Okay.
You need somebody to take the garbage out, I'm your guy.
Oh, okay. You're getting a lot of garbage here.
Yeah, I do. I tell you. No, I make sure that the brewers have everything they need, and also work with all the packaging, distribution, basically everything that's not covered by actual brewing.
Okay, well, I hear that's a pretty unique task in the sense that you have to have. They're talking about very English-style brewing here.
This is correct. Yeah.
So that probably makes your job slightly more difficult than maybe some of the
We
other
import
breweries.
all of our malt is imported, so it's all English malted. So that adds an extra layer of intrigue to getting raw materials in here. Otherwise, we're not all that much different than your basic microbrewery, and so or coming close to a regional craft brewery, and so our challenges are pretty similar.
Okay. Well, in the sense of bringing the stuff over, what type of paperwork would you have to do?
We don't deal with that so much. There are malt brokers and malt
salespeople. So you're basically going through them, so that takes out a lot of the middleman.
It just increases,
and probably a lot of the headache as well.
Well, for us, yes, absolutely. It increases our lead time.
Okay.
To get our malts, so we have to plan out a little bit further in advance.
Okay,
that's the biggest.
Yeah, so it's just proper planning and stuff like that. So, anyways, along getting everything ready for the brewers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's pretty unique requests and stuff like that when some of the specialty brews and stuff like that.
Right.
What's probably one of the oddest things that they've asked for you? Like, hey, can we get this?
Well,
or, hey, do you think you could find a place where I can get this at an effective price?
Right. We're always thinking creatively, and so coming up with some of the adjunct or the specialty materials, fruit extracts, things like that. Where do you source 160 pounds of bitter orange peel?
Well, where do you?
That's kind of the rough things. And there are growers. There are actually people that specialize in that stuff. It's just going out in the world and finding them and seeing if we can actually afford to make a beer, using that kind of ingredient. When they're used to selling 1 ounce of it and we're asking for hundreds of pounds of it, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, has there ever been an issue where, guys, we cannot get this?
Yeah, there are certain things. We were, I guess 6 months ago, we're trying to source a lot of bergamot, which is the flavoring from Earl Grey tea, and it's a special sour orange, basically. And getting that volume of it, and the real one, the really tasty ones imported from Italy, that just isn't going to happen. You know, so every once in a while we run into that kind of thing. So it's like, all right, how do we find a different path around this?
Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you deal with some of the distribution?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So over the years, it seems like that's kind of what this new expansion is going to be dealing with. Is increasing your distribution in a sense.
When I showed up here 5 years ago, it was basically myself and the owner, his pickup truck and a van, and that was our distribution. And you could pretty much throw a rock from the brewery and hit everybody that we were being distributed to. Today we're in 3 states. We cover 3 states. When I started, we were about 700 barrels a year, and we're looking to hit somewhere north of 15,000 barrels this year. So it's been rapid. It's been about 100% every year. So I tell people if I had hair, it would be on fire. So I have a little bit more than you do, but not a whole lot. Yeah,
exactly. So it's been pretty difficult meeting those challenges.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Okay.
Difficult. It's challenging. Let's say. It's a whole lot better than sitting on a whole bunch of beer that we don't sell.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it. Right. I mean, every day right now we have orders on the board that we're scrambling trying to fulfill. And really, it's a great time to be in craft beer. Yeah. I started my first experience with craft beer was 1984 with Red Hook in Seattle.
Okay.
And so throughout the years, I've seen very few of the ups, a lot of the downs, and it's a great time to be in this business. It's a great time that people around the country are discovering what wonderful flavors there are in craft beer.
Yeah, because I came from a very Midwest place, and I remember craft beer being very big in the mid-'90s. I believe there was a small,
early '90s probably until about '94.
Small boom there, and I remember it being discussed a lot, like, oh, that's a foo-foo-y beer.
Right.
Well, actually, I feel like it's the most American thing you could have.
Absolutely. Pre-Prohibition, there was about as many breweries as there are now.
Yeah.
It was just that large. Now, that was prior to refrigeration and a lot of the cool things that we can do with beer.
Absolutely.
But look, Americans have always enjoyed really good beer. Well, the world has, but especially Americans. And so I think we're finally getting back to that. it's a rediscovery. Everything old is new again. So it's really in my mind, an education process. Being able to educate everybody that there are wonderful flavors out there to be had. And the great part is there are a lot of really good beers out there now too. Yeah. That may be the biggest difference from the early 90s was there was a lot of mediocre beer out there and a lot of people that had a lot of money that didn't know what they wanted to do with it. You've got a lot of people that are struggling on their credit cards just to put out a beer, to put out a product they're proud of that's just super. It's amazing.
Well, what's the difference between the early 90s and now? Is it just technology? Is it accessibility?
No, I think it's I really think it's passion. I think the people in the early 90s there was a lot of .com money and some other things. Brewery was a cool thing to do. There wasn't as much education. There wasn't as much education on the whole craft field. A lot of people just trying to figure out what's what. And I think that there's more passion, more education, better beers flowing just on the whole from everybody. Even your smallest, 100 barrels a year nano breweries. These people love it. They've been homebrewing now for 20 years, finally decided to go commercial and throw everything they've got into the ring to do it. And they're producing some amazing and wonderful beers. It's really fun. It's a great thing. It's a great time. In Portland this year at the Craft Brewers Conference, I sat above the opening ceremony and just looked at the volume of people there. It was phenomenal. It was great to know that all these people share my passion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, as far as like Green Man goes, what was, like you said, it started off with a pickup truck, and that was your distribution.
Right.
Like, what was the next step? And like, how big was the facility that you were brewing the beer at that
basically,
time?
the single building that we're sitting outside of right now.
Okay.
We had a 14-barrel brew house. When our current ownership took over, it had been a part of a restaurant uptown, and we were kind of the dirty little secret. And we kind of decided, hey, this is the real deal. We can make this work. So we added some more staff. Really started to ramp up just the volume, that we could do in the one brew house. And a couple of years later, we bought the building next door, went into a larger 30-barrel brew system, and have been adding tanks ever since. Our next expansion, which is the rest of the block now, and it's that big, beautiful building that you see.
Which is enormous. It looks gorgeous. I can't wait to come back and see it.
It does. From the outside, it looks fantastic. I'm just waiting for the inside to be finished.
Obviously,
so
you got to put some stuff in there.
Exactly.
You got to get stuff rolling. You got to get all that distribution ready to go. And get that beer shipped out.
Plus, we're going to put in a really cool little smaller system in there for specialty stuff in addition. So looking forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun. And really, it's just to serve more people and to continue our growth. It's been, quite honestly, it's been humbling that people dig what we do, that we're able to continue to sell more and more beer. Where our beer's going into markets that we kind of had an advantage in Asheville. We'd been around for a long time. Yeah. And the second oldest brewery in town, so we had a lot of name recognition.
The legitimacy, in a sense.
In a way, yeah. We'd cut our teeth here.
Yeah.
But now we're going into markets where they'd never heard of us before, and it's still selling well. So that's kind of the humbling part. That's like, wow, that's pretty cool. People dig what we're doing. Yeah. So it's neat. It really is a cool thing to be a part of.
Well, speaking of being a part of it, I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have been a part of it. Like, when you first started, how many employees did...
Oh, what did we have? 4 of us, basically. A couple of brewers and myself and the owner. We had, the bartenders and the staff for the front of the house. But that was it for us.
And where do you stand today?
Let's see, 4, 8, about a dozen of us.
A dozen,
all in.
yeah. It's a small staff,
Yeah, we do a lot with a very few amount of people. I mean, that's true for craft across the the country, but we're also kind of the. I think it's not unusual, but everybody does everything. Yeah. Even the smallest task, everybody pitches in and makes it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
We fix it if it breaks. It's just what we do. That's what craft brewers do. Yeah. We're kind of. Renaissance people, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing I think about craft beer, that when people say, oh, it's foo-foo, it's whatever, like, no, this is very American. It's a small company, a lot of people working with a lot of passion and wanting to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there isn't a day that I don't wake up and want to come in and make it go. And that's kind of the other fun part about it is it's something different every day. It's a different challenge. I'm not sitting in a cubicle in front of a screen, and I've done that. My mind is not melting out my ear. Every day I come in, it's something cool, something fun, something different, and we get to use our imaginations. So, and I think you're right. I think that's the core of the American experience is developing something, using your imagination, and following your passion.
Well, you said you worked for Long Hook?
Red Hook.
Red Hook, yes,
Right.
Red Hook. I don't know why I messed that up because
Oh,
it's
no.
one of my favorite IPAs.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
definitely my favorite. So what was the thing that got you into beer?
I blame it on my genetics.
Yeah.
I think it was my dad when I was younger than I can probably tell you how old, like 4 or 5. I grew up in Seattle, and so there were some Canadian beers down, Canadian ales.
Right.
Those were a lot different than the yellow Pilsners that were being produced on mass scales that were available back then. And kind of set my taste buds at an early age for the craft product, and I immediately fell in love with it. So I found my way to do whatever I could to get involved with the business. And over the years, I've tried to get away. I've taught school. I've done a bunch of different things, and it just keeps drawing me back. You know, I'm also a scuba diver, and the two coolest groups of people I know are scuba divers and craft beer people. And it's just where I want to hang out. It's what I want to do, you know, and the people I want to be around. Yeah. So I love the tastes of it. I love the imagination, the experimentation of it, and I love the hard work of it. I know it sounds kind of weird, but I love just, you know, coming in and working hard every day and producing something. I think that's just what I'm built up, you know, the way I'm made.
Okay. Well, we talked a little bit about the future with Elise, but like for you, what's the future goals for Green Man Brewery?
We want to continue to fulfill the markets that we have, you know, and expand where we can. Like I said, it's neat that people love our product, and so I want to continue to meet that demand and to take it as far as it goes. Nobody's getting rich in this business, you know. Nobody's buying their own private island doing what we're doing.
But they're paying some bills, probably.
Well, that, you know, and that's the bottom line is if tomorrow we didn't open another market and we just stayed exactly the same size we are now, a couple of us are making, you know, a living. You know, we've got a dozen people here that are making a pretty good living and enjoying it. And if that's all that ever happens, that's great. I'd be very happy with that. But like I said, it's a great time to be in the business, and if we can continue to expand and keep our quality at the level it is, that's really, you know, job number one for us is meet demand and maintain our quality. So who knows? Let's keep pushing and see how far it goes. You know, we don't have any plans to take over the world. It's not feasible, and I've seen way too many breweries that have that in mind, and their quality just drops out of the bottom trying to meet the demand. I'd rather do it the other way around, kind of just let it grow organically and see how far we can go with it. So,
well, thank you for your time, John. That was
absolutely
wonderful.
A pleasure.
Hey there, guys. This is Jake again. As you can kind of tell, this interview was rather short even for both people. I thought I had about 20 minutes with both people and maybe a half an hour with Elise, but apparently I didn't do a very good job of watching the clock, and I wanted to make sure that Green Man had some appropriate time as far as on this podcast and stuff like that, because they're very courteous with their time. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about some of their beer, because they were nice enough to give me a sample of their beer. And a wide variety of it, and I've been kind of sipping on it. So I kind of want to not really do a review, because I'm not going to give these beers as stars or anything like that. But John did give me a lot of information about these beers off camera, and I feel it's only appropriate that I kind of pass it along to you and maybe kind of put it into layman's terms. John is very knowledgeable about beer, so maybe I can kind of convey it, dumb it down in a sense, or maybe put it in common man terms. It might be a better way to put it, because I am a beer drinker, an avid beer drinker, so I do enjoy beer, and I kind of enjoy Green Man beer. So let's kind of jump into some of the products they gave me as a sample. So and I'll tell you what's good and why I like it, and maybe why you might like it. So how about we just jump it right in? You know, starting off, their ESB, their Special Amber Ale. They're award-winning. Of course, it contains British malts, which most of their beers contain British malts and stuff like that, as you learned from John's interview and stuff like that. But this is their signature one. And actually, I had this beer for lunch right before I did the interview. So maybe that's why I didn't keep a good job of watching the time, that is. But just wanted to give you a sense of what this beer tastes like and why you may like it. And maybe you want to pick it up if you see it in the grocery store aisle. Like I said, it's a very it's got the British malt, so it's kind of malty. But I will say this: you could tell it's an amber ale. It goes on a little bit smooth. For most of you, if you drink domestics like a third shift and stuff like that, something that's a domestic beer that's got a little bit more bite to it. But this, like I said, is very similar to that, but it's got a lot more malt, and of course this is the British malts, which is a very signature thing of Green Man beer, and it's very, very smooth. It's got the feel, of heaviness to it, but it is very refreshing in a sense. So I highly recommend this. And like I said, I had this as a lunch beer before I did the interview, so I would highly recommend this as a lunch beer, especially if you're having a rough day or having a nice big hamburger or something like that, or if you can take a nap later on. That might be a good call too. But yeah, it's a nice. You think it comes on heavy, but it actually finishes really smooth and light. So I highly recommend this ESB, as I do all other Green Man beers, of course. And moving on to their regular IPA, their flagship IPA. Of course, the ESB is also one of their flagships, but their IPA, of course, is a flagship. You can get it year round. You don't have to wait for a certain season for it to come around. It's always around. And of course, I'm a very big fan of IPAs, so I'm very looking forward to this sip right here. Oh, that's a good IPA, that's for sure. And it's unique in a sense because it is an English IPA, so it's got those English malts and stuff like that. So you feel that presence. So it has a very similar taste to the ESB, but it comes on very strong like an IPA should. And it doesn't hang around so much on the back end of your mouth, but you do taste the hops like you would for any regular IPA. But it is a traditional English IPA, so I highly recommend it to kind of mix up your IPA drinking and stuff like that. That's for sure. It's definitely something different and stands out. So if you're an IPA drinker and you've kind of had a lot of domestics, I would highly recommend jumping on this Green Man IPA to kind of mix things up and get a little bit different taste. And moving right along to the Green Man Porter. It's a rich dark ale, and I'm not that big a fan of porters right up bat. That's why I had started off with the IPA, because it's definitely my favorite. I would probably say porter's my least favorite, but everything I've had from Green Man has always been fantastic, so I can give you an honest assessment. I'm coming in with a positive mindset, and I'm giving this porter a fair shake. So let's see what I feel about it. Wow. You know what? Like I said, I'm not a big fan of porters. Because I feel like they're very heavy, and like I said, I like IPAs, and I like them to be smooth, and I don't like them to be chewy and stuff like that, and that's why I stay mostly away from the porters. But this porter is it's not so much heavy as it is creamy. You feel like a creamy sense of it when you drink it, and it's most certainly not heavy. I don't feel like I'm chewing this thing whatsoever. But like I said, it has kind of it tastes a little bit creamy and stuff like that, and really smooth. And of course, it also has the English malts, like that of all other beers that have the signature of Green Man, and that is the English malts and stuff like that. So it's definitely quite a smooth drink. And I have to say, if I'm gonna have a porter, I'm gonna have a Green Man porter, because it's really smooth, and I don't have to chew through it like most porters that I have. So this is definitely a winner when it comes to porters. Unfortunately, there's only one winner in the column right now, because I'm not a big fan. But it stands alone right now in the win column for porters. I'll say that much. So I'm gonna have another sip of this. That's for sure. And now we end this beer tour with a seasonal IPA, a summertime IPA, because it is summer. And of course, I do like summertime IPAs because they're a little bit lighter, but they still have that hoppy note to them as well. And they also have a citrus taste to them a little bit too. And this one will be probably no different according to the description. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. And it is the Wayfair. Maybe I should have done this one first. I could have pronounced it a little bit better, but it is their summer seasonal IPA from Green Man. So I'm looking forward to this taste right here. This is a very light IPA, but has that hoppy note to it and the citral notes to it that I always like. And those are kind of my favorite IPAs as well, is one that's kind of got a citrusy taste to it and a little bit lighter, but I definitely taste the hops. I can definitely recognize this to be an IPA, but definitely very light, very smooth, almost a little too smooth. And I mean that in a dangerous sense, in the sense that I could have about 3 or 4 of these, where normal IPAs I have 2 and I get full and I'm done. Or I might be able to squeeze out I'm already slurring my words. Look what the summertime IPA from Green Man's already doing to me. It's already making me slurring my words. So I highly recommend it on that sense. But I don't recommend that you drive home after you had about 2, maybe 3 of these, because I think you'll run into some bad issues. But anyways, I can't thank Green Man enough for giving me samples of their products. And like I said, I was a little bit short on the interviews, but I want to make sure they get a full opportunity to get their product and the good things they're doing out there. And the good thing that they're doing is making beer, and quality beer, very unique beer with English malts, and doing just wonderful things. And they've been doing wonderful things in Asheville for a very long time, and they're going to be expanding across North Carolina. So be looking out for them in your grocery stores and your other beer distributors throughout the state, and make sure you pick up a 6-pack. I highly recommend it. Just about all the beers that I've had today. Probably the many more that I'll have from Green Man Brewery. But anyways, folks, thank you for joining me for another episode of Stranger in a Southern Land.